Welcome, everyone, to Family Comes First. I'm Vincent J. Russo.
And I'm Victoria Roberts-Strogan. Thank you for joining us. Vincent, this past season has provided us with such a wide spectrum of family life.
We love sharing them with you and thought you would enjoy seeing the highlights.
The best of Season 8, right here on Family Comes First. Over this past season, we have shared with you stories that were both uplifting and heartbreaking, and stories that made us think about who we are as human beings.
Our first highlight is the story of Father Tom Donahoe, who made a connection with the children of his parish and the children of Haiti that will inspire all of us to make a difference in this world of ours.
And we had the pleasure of meeting Jenny and Darren Acabelli, whose daughter Nola was born with a severe and rare disorder. They are determined to give her all the best life can offer and to give themselves, as a family, the best quality of life possible.
Absolutely. We also had Bob Policastro of Angela's House and Ann Bingham, mother of Victoria. Such incredible work is being done for families of medically fragile children.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
I met Father Tom in the early 1980s.
Okay.
He was a pastor of St. Mary's Church in Long Beach. In early 1990s, the Diocese of Rockville Center was stressing the need for stewardship.
Okay.
So the stewardship encouraged offering like time, talent, and treasure.
Okay.
So each parish had to look into how they were going to develop this
So a
program.
stewardship program for each parish to give.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So then Father Tom comes to you.
Came to me after many prayers and thanking and consulting with other people. He said to me that he wants to develop a program, the stewardship program, with the CDC children, and the Haitian children,
Yeah.
and young
So
Haitian
connect the
children.
children in the parish
Yes,
with the children in Haiti.
with the children in
Okay.
Haiti.
Wonderful.
He wanted to develop that program.
And I guess you were going to help him spearhead this?
Yes,
You have a little
yes,
connection to Haiti?
Yes, I have family members still living in Haiti. And I called them and I said that Father Tom wanted to choose a school, so that way, because he believed in education, that
Yes.
education was the key. To pull out people of poverty, you have to be educated.
Right.
So my sister helped me, and so we had selected the school of École Congréganiste, Saint Vincent de Paul in Haiti, and
Yes.
Thomas in Haiti.
So it started with pennies.
It all started with pennies. It was a Lenten program. Right now we're at Lent.
Okay.
Yes, and the children started to bring their pennies. Father Tom will roll them up, go to the bank, and get a currency.
So the children would bring pennies for Lent,
Yes.
knowing what they were giving for.
Absolutely.
And Father
Yes.
Tom would
And
collect
they were
them.
also writing to the children in Haiti, and the
beautiful.
children also were writing back. When Father Tom used to go to Haiti, around him was a sea of children. And they will be calling him Père Thomas, Père Thomas. Sometimes he will have like his quarters in his hands and give them some money to go and buy some snacks.
Right.
And he brought so much love to them and hope.
Yes.
We used to call him the ambassador of hope.
Nicole, tell us about how you are carrying out Father's legacy at the school.
It's a big mission and
Yes.
a very special one.
Yes.
The school now, I have to say, has a library, a computer room, a great auditorium where there is a big picture of Father Tom
Oh, in the auditorium.
in the auditorium. I think
Please.
it's so important to say that the school is a living memory of
Yeah.
Yes.
Father Tom.
Nola was born 3.5 weeks early. But other than that, she was, typical baby, came home with us. Everything was fine. until about 9 weeks old. She started to get fussy and didn't want to drink the bottle. And then was being monitored by the doctor every few days, and at 11 weeks was hospitalized.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And that's when we realized there was something seriously wrong,
Oh, my God.
which they couldn't figure out in the hospital. Then we continued on the genetic testing path, which is what they predicted it would be.
Wow.
We weren't having luck on Long Island, so we went to Pennsylvania, to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is where she was diagnosed with cardiofaciocutaneous syndrome. It's a mouthful.
Yes.
And
And
as a
rare.
lay person,
very rare.
Very rare.
Explain what that would mean to
Sure.
our viewers.
So the syndrome is named because of, before genetic testing, they would diagnose it by certain features. So all of the children have a cardio problem, so that's your heart. Cutaneous is for your skin, so they all have some sort of skin condition. And then the facio is they all have similar facial features. In fact, they look more like each other than they do their parents.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. How rare is this?
It's very rare. Less than 400 children in the world that we know of have the condition.
Goodness.
So support must be so essential.
It really is.
Yeah.
It was and it is, and I think we've seen where we relied on that support for the first, 4 or 5 years, and now we go to the conferences that are every 2 years, and we see our roles as supporting the new families coming, and it's been nice to be able to provide that back to other families, and they see Nola's progress, which has been really astonishing, and she brings a lot of.
So give some
Hope.
examples
Yeah,
about
tell
the
us.
progress that she's made.
Sure. I mean, when most families introduce solid food at 4 to 6 months, Nola, wasn't able to eat a Cheerio. She couldn't she wouldn't swallow a spoon of baby food at 6 months, even at 2 years old. So it was a very slow progression with a lot of feeding therapy, pretty intense program. And now you would never know that there's anything wrong with her. She can eat a piece of pizza at a birthday party, which was our biggest goal.
Incredible.
That's what we
Yes,
told
I
her
hear ya.
therapist.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled if she would be able to eat a piece of pizza
Right.
with her peers.
friends.
Especially
her
with a
friends.
last name. Acapelli.
Exactly. But yeah, she eats everything now.
Nola has brought joy to everything we do,
She's
and
adorable.
even early on when we were faced with the severe challenges of how do we get from point A to point B and get her fed and clean up a couple of, vomits along the way in the car.
Couple.
Well,
Yeah.
in that half-hour period.
Yeah.
Nola used to vomit like 12 times a day.
Ugh.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, we would still want to get out and about, and, we would go to local festivals in town. I mean, we live in St. James, and there's a lot of
Nice.
parades and
Yeah.
community activities, so we'd go to those and walk in town with the stroller. And if we had to veer off and pull out the feeding tube and go through the actions, we'd get an interesting response in town. Some people might look at us as if they've done this before and they recognize it, and some are very curious, which is understanding.
Yeah.
We just wanted to be out in that type of environment, and Nola embraced it.
Right.
We had no previous experiences in the special needs world, and when Nola was being watched carefully after birth and her weight checked every day, one of the appointments really led us right to the emergency room. And from that point, we were in the hospital for 8 days and didn't leave.
Yeah.
And we watched the nurses, how they would feed her. They were teaching us how to do it. And, we had a moment in time in the hospital where things were calm. And then we were sent home, and we were by ourselves. And we had a complete
It was crazy.
emotional breakdown because
Yeah,
we didn't
yeah.
have any support
Right.
to show us for that 3-4 hour period.
Yeah.
How do we feed her by ourselves? The noises we're supposed to listen for in our heart, in her lungs before we give her the food, and it was a memorable moment, very traumatic. But like you said, we pulled together and we decided early on that we needed to get through this.
CFC International, so that's cardiofaciocutaneous syndrome is a mouthful. So we say CFC.
Okay.
And CFC International is the parent support group. So I am president of the board.
Ah,
Fabulous.
So that's how where our life led.
right.
But without them, they were our biggest support system. With all the families and the executive director, who was, also has a child with CFC, and just they've been an incredible resource. So for any family that thinks they might have a child with CFC,
Right.
it's cfcsyndrome.org.
Victoria was born August 21st, 1995. Never did I ever imagine that there was going to be anything special happening. After all, I had two healthy daughters before her, and everything was going okay. And so I thought to myself, wow, look at this. What a miracle. I can have healthy children. This is now the third time around. So, okay, here we go. And out came beautiful Victoria. She was absolutely beautiful. No problems, complications in the pregnancy or the birth. And then shortly after I took her home, I began to sense, something's not quite right. I am pretty sure that by 6 or 7 weeks old, both Jessica and Julie were smiling at me, definitely looking at me by this point. And then at the 12-week checkup, I brought her home that night. She did have a medical exam that day, and that night I started to see what I was pretty sure were seizures.
Oh my goodness.
So that was the beginning of this journey.
And she's 21 now.
She is going to be 21.
Oh my goodness.
And I just marvel at if God could have, given me a glimpse 21 years down the road, that I'd be sitting here today with Bob Pellicastro, and the journey that I've been through with her, that the care that she received every step of the way, how she's doing today, it's just unbelievable. My husband also had a very, unrelated to Victoria, very serious health issue himself, very serious health issue, which he needed brain surgery as well. So I had my hands full. So someone said, contact Bob Pellicastro.
Right.
Back in those days, I thought to myself, I said, oh God, you say you don't give us more than we can bear, Lord. I don't understand what part of I can't handle this are you understanding down here? But he knew exactly what he was doing, because when I was crying out and praying that prayer, please help me, this is more than I can bear. I think you've overdone it this time. Between the husband with the health issues and Victoria, Bob and Angie Pellicastro were working away with Angela's house, which would turn out to be a tremendous support. And there's no way I could have
So
gone
Bob,
through.
you step in. How did you help?
Well, first we were helping her with home care. Fortunately, with Medicare systems and what is called the Care at Home program, it allowed us to bring in resources to both with the day-to-day care of Victoria, and really help her through the everyday aspects of, and that gets overwhelming.
Of course.
And if you could take some of those pieces away, and if you can have a coordinator come in and relieve some of that, and then have the supplement of not only your private insurance, but Medicaid stepping in and paying, it was great.
Eases a lot of the burden.
But
So
as
much.
we
It was
know, though,
wonderful. Wonderful.
it still can be overwhelming. And in their circumstance, I knew we were working on looking at a second house.
Okay.
So I approached the family and I said, listen, I see what you're going through. There wasn't something like that. You saw an end to what her husband was going through, what the family was going through, and Victoria's level of seizures were escalating. And I approached him. I says, listen, this is an awkward conversation to have, and I'll continue with home care. But I says, do you want to consider, coming into the new house? And it's
That's a big
one of the
question,
most difficult things to ever
Yeah.
approach a family
Right.
with.
This is a beautiful residential home. When I pulled up to Angela's house on Brookside Drive, I began to cry. I was so moved with just this is going to be my daughter's home now. We were calling it sleepaway camp.
Right.
Right.
That she would sleep here during the week. I would take her home on the weekends, just to help ease into the process. I drove there, such a beautiful home, then to meet loving, caring staff. You know, God bless these people who go into this field. It takes a special person. You must have a heart of gold and a steel stomach. You know, you are taking care of the day-to-day living, you know,
Needs.
and it's exhausting work, and I was just so appreciative.
We are going to take a break, and we will be right back with Family Comes First.
Hi, I'm Todd Belisle, the president of the Center for Special Needs Trust Administration. At the center, we understand the importance of helping individuals, family members, and loved ones secure independent lifestyles. We are the nation's leading provider in trust administration services with regards to pool trust, community trust, third-party trust, and special needs trusts. The center also offers specific services for Medicare recipients who are receiving settlement proceeds. If you'd like to find out what the center can do for you or your loved one, please contact us today.
Welcome back to Family Comes First. We've been looking back at the best of Season 8. Two stories that stand out for me are all about bravery and heroism.
World War II was a frightening time for the world, and we were honored to have Stephen DeMarco share his story of what he remembers about the war and his service to the country.
And we also had the privilege of spending time with Allison and Jefferson Crowder, the parents of Wells, who made the greatest sacrifice one could make. He sacrificed his life to save the lives of others.
Why did you decide to go into the Army? What was happening when you were a kid? You were 18, you said,
I
yeah?
was 18 and I was in high school, the fourth year, last year, and everybody was saying, "Oh, if you get drafted, you go where they want to put you." I didn't want to go where they want to put me, so I wanted the Navy.
Right. So you wanted to choose where you wanted
Why
to
the
go.
Navy?
I worked at down at the docks on New York Avenue.
Okay, in Brooklyn.
Every summer.
in Long Beach.
In Long Beach.
Eagle
New
Pier.
York.
Every summer I used to work with the navals,
The boats.
boat the rowboats. And
So you wanted the Navy.
I learned how to splice ropes and everything else.
Okay.
I wanted the Navy. I get on a train, and I found some of my buddies from Long Beach. They were going to the Army Air Force. So they talked me into going there. So we all went in there. I got in the Army Air Force, and they flunked out. They got in the Navy.
The Army Air Force was one unit at the time.
Yeah,
It was the Army. And
the Army Air Force. That's what it was called. But later on, they put it that the Air Force.
Right.
So you find yourself sent to
No,
England?
I was sent to Jersey
Okay.
thing. I did my
Basic.
basic, and then I was going mechanic. I put in for mechanic, airplane mechanic. They sent me up to Niagara Falls with the P-39. That's the plane with the cannon out the center
Okay.
of the thing.
Right.
What I done? 6 months. Went to sail, knew the whole plane, and we shipped out right over to England.
Yep.
Over in England, they discontinued the P-39.
No.
After 6 months of school, I got a P-51 that I knew nothing about.
Oh, my goodness. So what did you do?
I had a line on the car.
Yeah.
Picked it up.
And these P-51s were to protect the B-52 bombers, so they flew with them?
They flew, they got it, the bombers. They escorted the bombers, and then later on they went to TAC reconnaissance. They took all the pictures of all the Patton and all them going,
Right.
and they knew how to go, how to fight a war.
So you go from England to France,
To France, I drove a gas truck.
a gas truck.
Yeah,
You were a target.
yeah, it was a target.
Why? How did that happen?
Well, they had extra their gas tanks, and they needed somebody with a license. I had a license. I had a commercial license.
So you drove.
Now, Steph, tell us about your father's record as a crew chief with the planes.
Well, my father never lost a plane.
Wow.
Out of all the ones that didn't come back, none of his. He made sure every one of his planes came back, and that was a pretty amazing record.
Extraordinary.
Sure.
And he's probably one of the only crew chiefs where every plane came back.
You underestimate the bravery that you had.
Yes.
And I know you've received a couple of medals, and Steph brought them. Steph, you want to show
Sure.
and talk about these medals?
He received the Bronze Star Medal. He received the European Union Medal, and he received the Good Conduct Medal,
Good conduct?
which is hard to believe, I know. And then we have his original dog tags from when he went over.
Yeah, and thank God you have your dog tags.
Thank God
Right,
you came
we
back.
never-
with them.
Yeah, you
Yep,
came back.
exactly.
So many people didn't, unfortunately.
Vincent, 9/11 is a day that we will never forget. No one knew it was going to be a day that was different from any others. But in the hours and months that followed, we learned so many stories of those who had died and those who survived.
Sure, and it was such a horrific day. But yet, we're going to be joyful today.
Yes.
And we're going to share the life of Wells Remy Crowder. And I am privileged to have both of you, Allison and Jefferson, Wells's parents, here today to share your son's story.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for coming.
Well, we're the ones who feel privileged. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Wells as a boy.
Well, he was full of imagination and adventure. He was full of energy. It was always hard to keep up with Wells, and it apparently still is.
You are running.
That's right. But he was just wonderful and loving and very caring of his sisters and very protective. He had this wonderful protective nature about him, even from a very young age.
Was he the youngest?
No, he was the oldest.
The oldest, okay.
Athletics was a very, very large part of his life. You know the little squib they write under your photograph in your yearbook when you
Yes.
graduate from high school? His quote was, "There is no I in team." And I'll never forget, we were,
It's incredible.
yeah, well, it's just the way he
How
was. We were
consistent.
I took him down when he was looking at colleges. I took him for an interview at Lehigh. And I was with him at the time that the interviewer asked him, "Wells, what is it about athletics that you love so much?" And he said, when you're involved with athletics, whether it's ice hockey or lacrosse, because he was also
Yeah.
a fabulous lacrosse player, and in fact, that's what he played at Boston College. He said, when you're on a team like that, nobody's a white kid or an Afro-American kid, nobody's a Chinese kid, nobody's, from another country or whatever. You're all brothers, you're teammates, and you're working towards a common goal, and that's to win the game. And he truly believed that, and he loved it, and he lived it.
Tell us about the red bandana. How did that come about?
Well, my husband always carried bandanas for messy jobs. And
Handkerchief.
And we were going to church, getting ready to go to church one morning, and Wells would wear little Eton suits when he was small, and then little jackets and suits. So my husband took a white handkerchief and folded it nicely and put it in his breast pocket, and then he handed him a red bandana, and he said, "Now, Wells, don't touch the white handkerchief. The white handkerchief is for show. Here's a bandana. Keep that in your back pocket. That's for blow your nose, for messy
Right.
jobs."
Right.
And that's basically how it started. It was just as simple as that.
And
But
he always
became
had
a
it.
connection, I think, to his father. My office didn't have a television or anything, so they had a radio put on, and I went out to see what was going on. And because I had in my head Wells's message, I was able to pick it up by then. It came in about 9:13 or 9:17, after the tower was hit, according to the timestamp on my cell phone that we later found out. And so in my head, it was Wells saying, "Hi, Mom, this is Wells. I'm okay. I just want you to know I'm okay." So, but then when I walked out to see what was going on, they had heard the news the tower collapsed, and they told me, and I just knew that Wells was gone. So I called my husband and I said, "Wells is gone," and my husband said, "Don't say that. He's probably fine. He had a lot of skills. He had time to get out," and he did. He just didn't choose to get out. He chose to stay and help at the scene.
Help as many folks as he could.
And when did you kind of connect the stories? How did that happen?
Oh, that didn't happen for a long time, for about 9 months. And I was, Wells was recovered from Ground Zero on March 19th of 2002. So for that whole long period of time, we knew nothing, and that was a terrible place to be. And that's where so many families are still left, which is just so cold and empty and terrible. But anyway, so they recovered Wells, and we knew he got down. So because he worked on the 104th floor, that meant that he had to pass through the sky lobby
Right.
before or
He
at
could
about the
go
time the
over.
plane hit.
Yeah.
So I was 2 months later, the New York Times came out with that big article, "Fighting to Live as the Towers Died," for Memorial Weekend. And my husband, who couldn't read or look at anything or watch video, it's too painful, he said, "Here, you may want to read this." So I took it into our bedroom, and I sat on our bed and started reading. And I came to the section that says 902 in the South Tower sky lobby, and I said, "Oh my God, if I'm ever going to see anything about Wells," because I kept looking, I kept searching, a mother would, right?
Right.
I said, if I'm ever going to see anything about Wells, I'll see it here. So I started reading that segment, and sure enough, the references started to come up about the man in the red bandana and saving lives. And obviously, he was skilled with firematic training because of the commands he was calling out to people and organizing people getting off the sky lobby.
And did you go
I
back
did. I
out?
went right in. I said, "Jeff, I found Wells. Here he is."
Looking back, Vincent, I wonder where the inspiration comes from that allows ordinary people to perform extraordinary feats.
Absolutely. I think God plays an important role, and family. People who are connected to family feel so inspired to not only help their own families, but to help other families.
Yeah.
And with God's Spirit, they rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and all the families we talked about how they didn't know how they would act. We didn't know what we would do if we were in those situations. And somehow, you know what you hope you would do.
Right.
And they certainly rose to the occasion. They were resilient and resourceful and strong.
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's truly a blessing for us to meet these remarkable people and their families. They make us laugh. They make us cry. We are so grateful to all of the families of Season 8.
For more information and a list of resources, you can visit Vincent's law firm at vjrussolaw.com.
Thanks to all our viewers for joining us. And remember, family truly does come first.